Hello friends, I'm Nukebrush. Today we are going to make heavy armored rocket launcher tank with a Flayer.
Time to go nuclear.
This model came to me already printed. And again there is a rocket tank on this channel. As you may remember, the last rocket tank project was dedicated to chaos, so this time it is natural to make it loyal. While I was assembling the tank, I was thinking which order is closer in spirit to this model. In other words, in what colors should I paint it? After going through several options, I decided to settle on the calm green monotone of Dark Angels. First, as usual, we need to prime the model. I prime the tank with a nitro primer Mr. Surfacer 1000, which is great for identifying print discrepancies, whereas cavities and other print mistakes. It should be remembered that the rockets should be more or less freely inserted into the landing launch holes, so too much primer or paint should not be applied on them. I fill in detected defects with liquid putty Mr. Surfacer 500, sand it lightly and cover again with a layer of main primer. Done! We can start applying shadows and the main color. I paint the bottom of the body and the tracks with brown oxide paint primer. This primer gives our tracks nice rusty brown color. Next we follow the standard reliable method and apply other shades of rust. Before else we create old ingrained rust with dark brown paint, and on top of it we imitate bright spots of fresh rust with various colors of orange and yellow paint. I use paint diluted with water, so when it dries it forms a spotty random pattern that we desire. After the paint had dried well, we restore the metal base of our tracks with a dry brush. Firstly, we thoroughly apply a darker metal, and on top of it we go over the most protruding places with a bright metallic. Now the tracks can be covered with masking tape and we can start applying the main color. So, Dark Angels green. We will move accordingly to the scheme: base green, then shadows, then the main color, and finally highlights. First we will create a base for shadows with not so bright but dull and matte green color. I apply the paint in 1.5 thin layers to cover all surfaces. Then, with a dark green color using a shader paint, we apply shadows to all the recesses and protruding elements of the joints and decal. When the shadows are finished, we can start applying the main color. I use rich green paint which unifies the base and shadows into a single monolithic Dark Angels camo. This does not mean that we need to apply a thick layer of paint. On the contrary, we need to make sure that the main color does not overlap our work with shadows. When the main color is applied, we can do highlights. I use a light green paint to go over the most prominent and upper elements, and then, using an even brighter shade of green paint, we go over the very top parts and the most prominent details. The main color is ready. I take a brush and highlight the elements of the joints and decor with bright green paint. This is not a difficult job that requires only perseverance and a little accuracy. But in the end we contrastingly emphasize the difference between light and shadow on our tank. Now we can start making markings. I will use ready-made decals and a custom stencil made by myself. The stencil base is just regular paper with a printed pattern, on top of which ordinary scotch tape is placed, and on top of that I apply masking tape. I cut out all the necessary elements with a sharp scalpel and all that remains is to carefully apply the stencil and also protect the rest of the tank parts from paint or spray. The base color with the white marking will be grey paint. which I also apply to the technical recesses on the sides of the tank. And yes, I decided to dilute the monotonic dark green a little. In addition, I prepare a stencil to imitate the restricted black and yellow tapes on the rear panel of the tank. There is nothing complicated here either. First apply light yellow color, then the stencil, and black paint on top. While the main colors and markings are drying, let's start highlighting the metal parts. There is nothing complicated here, since all the metal elements on this tank, both technical and decorative, are painted in a regular steel color. A little bit of accuracy and polished metal color paint, and it's done. I will emphasize the final shine of the metal elements in the weathering stage using the appropriate pigments. Before applying decals, I as always cover the tank with glossy varnish. This way the decals will stick to the surface better. To install decals, I use marks at neon modeling chemistry, and then applied marks softer neon for better adhesion. As you can see in the video, not all decals want to be applied beautifully with a brush, so sometimes you have to use a more professional tool, your own fingers. In general, there seems to be little work with decals. The main thing is to be careful and take your time. After everything is fixed and dry, we need to cover the model with matte varnish. The optical elements on our rocket tank are represented by the triplexes of the cam and cupola, elements of the guidance system, and headlights. With the usual lenses, everything is more or less clear. I paint them according to the standard contrast scheme, from top to bottom, from dark to light, and vice versa. On the other hand, I decided to slightly modify the head and rear lights. First I glue decorative bits in the front headlights and shiny foil film into the rear ones. I paint the front headlights silver and cut out circles from transparent plastic film that imitate headlight caps. I glue the caps on blue tack for ease of painting and apply paint varnish to the inner surface of the caps. When the varnish has dried, we can glue the caps to their seats. This is almost surgical work, especially with an already painted tank, so I used tweezers and scalpel. By the way, don't do it in the way I did. First paint and glue the headlights and triplex lenses, and only then do the whole painting of the model. In any case, when everything is ready, we can create a shiny effect on our triplexes and headlights and apply transparent paint varnish over the finished optical elements. Now we will use enamel washes. Before working with aggressive chemicals that can damage our work, it is necessary to cover the model with varnish. I use dark brown wash for green vehicles, which is great for the canonical green color of the Dark Angels. With the help of a brush, I highlight the elements of the hull and removable parts, creating volume and shadow of the model. As usual, nothing complicated, just perseverance and accuracy. I've almost forget about our rockets, so I've applied some washes to them too. Remember that all the mistakes can be corrected with a brush dipped in enamel thinner. After the washes have dried, the tank can be varnished again. Let's add some damage and wear to our rocket tank. As usual, we start with chipping. Our tank will be more or less well groomed, which means we won't need many chips and scratches. The main layer as usual falls on the chassis, various hatches and covers, as well as elements of the launcher. Using a sponge, we create an effect of worn and chipped paint, which is formed from natural wear or damage. Then, using a brush, I combine random chip points into a single grid of scratches. On top of the light green color scratches, I applied dark brown paint which mitigates the effect of rust in deep damaged areas. When applying chips, the main thing is not to overdo it and stop in time to only emphasize the elements, and not to overload the appearance of the tank. Almost finished. All that's left is dirt, rust, and of course all sorts of leaks and drips of oil and fuel. In order to apply dirt to the chassis, I use dry pigments of earthy and rusty colors, which I mix together with acrylic thinner. Then I generously apply this mixture with a brush to the surface of the tracks and chassis parts. When the dirt dries, the excess can be easily removed with a regular brush, cotton swab, or sponge slightly moisturized with water. It's easy to create dustiness on the chassis with an old brush and dry pigments of earthy colors. I also use dry pigments to restore the shine of metal surfaces and tracks. Of course, we do not forget about small drips of rust, fuel and oil here and there, for an even more realistic effect. Well, all that's left is to add some more shadows, put ashes on exhaust pipes and grills, and of course load our rockets into the launcher and
let the heretics pray. The rest of the Emperor is near.
If you liked the video and want to see more models like this, feel free to comment, like and share it. And also subscribe to the channel. Good luck with your models and see you soon.